My name is David. I'm 41 years old, and exactly 8 months ago, my wife died. Her last words to me were not angry or dramatic. They weren't spoken during an argument or shouted in frustration. They were quiet, almost gentle, and that softness is what made them cut deeper than anything else she could have said. I'm telling you this because my story isn't extraordinary. There's no scandal in it, no betrayal, no explosive secret. It's ordinary, and that's exactly why it matters. If you recognize even a part of yourself in what I'm about to say, it might save you years you don't realize you're slowly giving away. On paper, my life looked good. I worked in logistics for a regional company just outside Columbus, Ohio. It wasn't a dream job, but it was steady. The pay covered the bills. We owned a modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. We had 2 dependable cars, health insurance, and a routine that worked. From the outside, there was nothing about our life that suggested something was wrong. My wife, Laura, and I had been together since our early 20s. We met at a 4th of July party through mutual friends. She had a calm presence, the kind that put people at ease. She listened more than she talked. She remembered details most people forgot. She made you feel noticed in a way that was subtle but meaningful. We got married when we were 26. People described us as solid, stable, dependable. Friends would tell us how lucky we were to have found something that lasted. And for a long time, I believed that stability was the same thing as happiness. We didn't fight much, and I used to see that as proof we were doing something right. There were no screaming matches, no slammed doors, no accusations thrown back and forth. There was no infidelity, no major betrayal, just calm days stacked on top of each other, predictable, comfortable. What I didn't understand back then was that the absence of conflict isn't the same as connection. Sometimes it's just silence wearing a disguise. The distance between us didn't appear overnight. It crept in slowly, hiding inside routine. Long workdays followed by quiet dinners. Evenings spent on opposite ends of the couch, each of us scrolling through our phones, falling asleep without saying much more than good night. Weeks passed without real conversations, then months, then years. I told myself this was normal, that this was adulthood. Passion fades. Stability replaces it. That's what everyone says, right? I thought this was the natural evolution of a long-term relationship, not a warning sign. Laura noticed long before I did. At first, she tried to talk about it gently, not in a confrontational way, just small comments, questions slipped into ordinary moments. "Do you ever feel like we're just kind of going through the motions?" she asked once while we were washing dishes. I shrugged it off. I told her work was stressful. I said things would calm down eventually. I reminded her that we were lucky compared to most people. I thought reassurance was the same as listening. Eventually became my favorite excuse. One night, while we were standing in the kitchen after dinner, Laura suggested counseling. She wasn't emotional or upset. She leaned against the counter with her arms loosely crossed, not defensive, just tired. She said it calmly, like someone offering an idea, not issuing a demand. I laughed, not because I thought she was ridiculous, but because the idea made me uncomfortable. Counseling? For what? We're fine, I said. I'll never forget the look on her face. Not anger, not hurt, just something quietly closing. She never brought it up again. I took her silence as confirmation that everything was okay. When Laura stopped bringing up her feelings, I assumed it meant she was content. I didn't realize that she had stopped asking because she was slowly running out of hope, quietly surrendering to a sense of emptiness I refused to notice. I didn't understand that she was grieving our marriage while still living inside it, carrying the weight of disconnection in silence while I went about my life believing everything was fine. I believed that love was measured by reliability, by showing up, by paying the bills, by not causing problems. I believed that loyalty and consistency were enough to keep a marriage alive. I never stopped to consider what she needed emotionally. I never asked if she felt seen, valued, or truly loved. I assumed she did because I assumed that's what I felt. I assumed that if I was committed, if I was present in the ways I thought mattered, that she would feel the same security I felt. I failed to see that love is more than duty. It's connection. It's attention. It's noticing the quiet cracks before they become chasms, and by ignoring those cracks, I allowed our marriage to slowly slip away under my own assumptions. Years passed like that, quietly, without milestones, without disasters, just time moving forward while we stayed exactly the same. Then, one rainy Tuesday in October, Laura didn't come home from work. Her coworker called me instead. There had been an accident on I-70. A semi-truck hydroplaned and crossed lanes. Laura was taken to the hospital, but she didn't make it. She was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. I don't remember much about that night. I remember sitting on the edge of our bed, staring at the wall, waiting for shock to wear off. Waiting to wake up, waiting for someone to tell me there had been a mistake. What I wasn't prepared for was the envelope. It was sitting on the kitchen table when I came home, addressed to me in Laura's handwriting, just my name. Inside was a short letter. No blame, no accusations, no anger, just honesty. She wrote that she loved me, that she knew I never meant to hurt her. But she had spent years feeling invisible. She wrote that she tried to reach me in small ways, and when she couldn't, she learned how to live quietly beside me. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want a divorce. She just wanted to feel chosen, not assumed. Her last words were simple. I hope someday you learn how to be present with someone while you still have them. I've read that sentence more times than I can count. The grief didn't hit all at once. It came in waves. Some days I could function, other days I couldn't breathe. But beneath the grief was something heavier, regret. Not regret for something I did, but regret for everything I didn't do. I didn't ask follow-up questions when she tried to open the door. When Laura hinted at how she was feeling, I treated it like background noise instead of a warning. Her concerns weren't loud or emotional, so I assumed they weren't serious. She wasn't crying or threatening to leave, so I convinced myself everything was fine. I didn't fight for us because I truly didn't believe there was anything to fight against. I thought danger announced itself. I thought love only failed in obvious ways. I believed that showing up, staying faithful, and providing stability was enough to keep a marriage alive. I never stopped to consider that love also needs attention, curiosity, and the willingness to look closer when something feels slightly off. After Laura died, people told me how lucky I was. They talked about how solid our marriage seemed, how calm we were together, how we never aired our problems. They said we were an example of what lasting love looked like. I nodded and thanked them because it felt easier than correcting them. What they were describing was a version of our relationship that existed only from the outside. Behind closed doors, we weren't broken or dramatic. We were quiet, disconnected, and slowly drifting apart without realizing how far we'd already gone. Inside, we were lonely. I still live in the same house. The silence is different now. Back then, the loneliness existed while someone else was there. That kind of loneliness is confusing and painful in a way that's hard to explain. Now the house is empty, but the loneliness is honest. There's no pretending. I spend a lot of time thinking about how easy it is to waste years without realizing it, how comfort can slowly turn into complacency, how assuming everything is fine can be the most dangerous belief of all. If you're in a relationship that feels empty but not broken, I need you to hear this. You don't have to wait for a catastrophe to take your unhappiness seriously. You don't need a dramatic reason to change. Wanting connection is enough. Wanting intimacy is enough. Wanting to feel truly known matters. I thought there would always be more time. I thought there would be a moment when things felt urgent enough to fix. There wasn't. Laura never yelled. She never begged. She never gave ultimatums. She simply learned how to live without what she needed, and by the time I understood what was happening, it was too late. I would give anything to go back and sit on that couch and turn off my phone, to ask her how she was really feeling and actually listen without defending myself, to take her hand and show her that she mattered more than routine. But life doesn't give you do-overs. It gives you lessons, and sometimes they arrive after the damage is done. I'm rebuilding now, learning how to be present, learning how to listen, learning how to love without assuming, without postponing, without taking people for granted. It's painful, but it's honest. If this story resonated with you, if it made you pause or think differently about your own life, consider subscribing to this channel. More stories like this are coming, and these conversations matter more than we realize. And if you've lived through something similar, or you're in the middle of it right now, leave a comment. Your story might be the one that helps someone else realize what they still have time to save.